very few select people, of the very few select people that even get to play the sport to begin with, get the opportunity to get into. But pivoting from the PGA to the NCAA men's football, we had a huge story that broke Friday?
Yeah, it was Friday.
Broke Friday, where Nico, the freshman starting quarterback for Tennessee, University of Tennessee, who actually did he have one of the best freshman quarterback seasons of all time? No, but he threw for over 3,000 yards. He accounted for 30 touchdowns, and he led Tennessee to, I believe, an Elite Eight this year, in the first
Yeah,
in the first playoff. Because
yeah.
I
I
know
forget
they,
how they're calling it now, but
yeah,
yeah. He
but
led him
they
past
made
the
it to the
first
final.
round.
They made it in the final eight,
Yes.
which was big for their program, especially because a lot of SEC schools went down in the playoff pretty early this year. And
Hmm.
I know they went down probably earlier than they wanted to. But Nico, I guess just to tell the full story, he was making a little over 2 million. I think it was reported around about 2.5 million, and he was asking for five. But I think the straw that really broke the camel's back was he had already, I think him and his team, so I'm gonna guess his dad and his possible agent were already sniffing around to other schools like Ohio State and Oregon. And I believe it was Dan Lanning from Oregon who contacted Josh Heupel to let him know that Nico was sniffing around. And then when Heupel confronted him about it, he was like, "Yeah, I'm looking for more money. I'm not sure you're going to give it." And then when they came to Heat, Nico was like, "I'm out." And Josh was like, "Hey, we don't want you here if you're going to get this kind of money because we don't feel it necessary to pay you this kind of money." So this is something it's really already been happening, but this is probably the biggest and most explosive situation that's happened in. It's not something that's going to go away, although some athletes may shy around, but just because of the bad connotation and how much bad juju it gives you from such a big media release, especially when there's no real football talk to be had right now. This is headlining a lot of the stories outside of NFL draft. So man, like, what is your take on it? How do you feel about it? Like, what did you take away from it? And give me some insight if you have it as well.
Yeah, man, I hate it. I thought the number was four. I thought the number that he was asking for was four. That's what I
Yeah,
saw
yeah,
anyway.
yeah, yeah. He's
Okay.
asking for.
Okay, because you said five.
He was already getting around 2.5.
Okay, gotcha. So he was just asking for four, so
Yeah,
another
one and a half.
1.5,
Yeah,
whatever. I hate it. I'm just being fully transparent. I hate it. I think it's stupid. Dude, you're from 18 to 20 years old and you're making 2.5 million. What are we talking about? We're talking about, oh, I want four. Like, dude, do you not understand like where you're at in the SEC? You had a great year. The money is going to come. You are a good talent. You are an NFL talent, and you're being dumb, and you're gonna put a bad name around yourself because you just want a bag. So it's like, I don't know, man. For me, I'm not a fan of it. I think it's bullshit. I really do. I think and I look at it more from a coach's side. I'm not a Heupel fan. Let me start off by saying that I'm not a Heupel fan, and I think a little bit of that stems from like my Florida background. Like,
yeah,
I'm a Florida Gator fan, and what he did, and I don't know if you remember this, but it was 2 seasons ago. It was late in the game, and we were going to take a knee. There was something that happened, and it was some bullshit that he kind of pulled. I wasn't a fan of it, and from that point, I was like, man, whatever. Could take him or leave him. But I look at it from a coach's standpoint. And from a coach's standpoint, you spend so many hours recruiting and so many hours on the phone with kids, and you pour into these kids, and you take away time from your own family to try and make your team the best that you can. And then you get the kid that you want, you get your future, right? And then that kid goes off and he wants more money, whatever. And it's creating a culture. I'm leading to say this. It's creating a culture where the players have not been loyal for the past couple of years. But you're going to create a culture where these coaches are not going to be loyal. Now, granted, as a recruiter, your job is to always go and find that kid's replacement, right? Iron sharpens iron. I'm a firm believer in that. I used to tell my guys all the time, like, man, that kid's going to replace you if you don't, like, he's going to take your spot. You keep dicking around. But you're going to find it to where these coaches are just going to quit being loyal to these kids, and it sucks as a coach. Like, there's people out there, there's douchebag coaches all over the country in any sport and any level. Let's just call a spade a spade. But you're going to create a culture where these coaches are not going to give two shits about the kids because the kids don't give two shits about the coaches, the program, the fact that the time, the energy, all it takes. And so I just think that here soon, man, unless they right the ship, you're going to have a very toxic culture in the game of college football.
Well, okay, so I don't know if I'm going to give you pushback, but one point I think I'll work from back to forth. We've already seen because that was part of the whole push for the transfer portal was that coaches had the freedom to leave and take different or better jobs with
Hmm.
no consequences, and players didn't have that freedom. So we've already seen even like Indiana's coach last year. I forget where he was the year before that, but he gave the kids a notice. I think right before the bowl game, and he was in Indiana, and he brought all because he was in the Mountain West school, and he brought as many players as he could. But not everybody wants to transfer. Just based on because like some kids went to that school based because their parents were going to get to see them play, all the home games, and they were going to be within 5 hours of home, and now they're going from Minnesota to Indiana, and it's a far enough drive where their parents are only chance they get to see them is maybe a once a year trip or watching them on TV. But I think that is a smaller issue. I think the bigger issue is a couple years ago when NIL and transfer portal were both like full fledged introduced. I know transfer portal came before NIL.
Hmm.
There was, there never was, and there should have been from the jump because it's the Wild West. There should have been some form of CBA, a collective bargaining agreement, like the NBA has and like the NFL has, where there's a cap and there's actual concrete salaries and contracts given out to each player on the team to go
Hmm.
along with their scholarship because this will one because like we even heard stories of this is part of the reason why Nick Saban left, and I can't remember the coach's name who was at West Virginia, who he told a story after last season that his third string running back came to him after the last game of the season in their player exit meeting and asked him for I think it was like 325K. And coach was like, "Get the hell out of my office. That ain't happening." He was like, "I can find another one of yous in a second."
Hmm.
And I remember Nick Saban's wife telling the story that Nick had second and third stringers coming to him asking him for high six-figure deals when they still weren't going to be the starter next year, or they'd go find somewhere else to play. So I think until they have some kind of collective and bargain agreement and some form of players union, because the players I think do need a representative or do need representation on the legal side, and I think the two sides need to be able to come together to put a cap because you also have where schools like Ohio State and Michigan and Tennessee and Texas A&M and University of Texas can afford to pay their players. You hear about their
Hmm.
payrolls are $20 to $25 million, but
Hmm.
in Boise State, Colorado have a $7 to $8 million, probably not even that high payroll. And all those different things create all kind of different imbalances. And the days of hearing like an Ashton Genty turning down SEC seven-figure deals to go play and stay at
Oh,
Boise State because he wants to and he's loyal and he loves what they did for them. Those days are probably ending with this class right here. Every kid that gets the opportunity to go get a bigger bag, 9 times out of 10 is going to take it. So I think and my last point, I personally don't like it. I personally think Nico's trajectory has now gone on a downward trajectory, at least for the next year, because I don't foresee, especially because a lot of the big programs have already turned him down. I
mhm.
don't foresee him finding a better place where the coach quarterback situation is going to be better, unless maybe he goes to like Ole Miss or I don't, I don't, Miami or somewhere like that where they have a comparable coach, comparable talent around him. So I don't think it was a good decision by Nico. But the way things are set up, I don't blame Nico for asking for the money, whether how it affects him or not. And I also don't blame Tennessee for treating them how they should have. Because I think
Mhm.
both sides, the way the system's set up, both sides have the freedom to do and choose how they want to. But the reaction, what happens from there? 'Cause now Tennessee, they have still to have plenty of time, but now Tennessee has to go find their next starting quarterback for next year, which is going to put them behind the eight ball with the year they just came off of.
Yeah, yeah. So I'll give you my hot take, and then I'll kind of give you my final thoughts on this. So my hot take is Nico Amaliava is going to Ohio State. That's my hot take. I'm calling it right now. They're going to find a way to give him the money. That's where I stand. My final thoughts on this, and it goes back to your, CBA and, having something in place. Let's tear away the curtains and let's be really brutally honest with each other for 2 seconds. You got a kid, low income household, from the hood, family never went to college, whatever it might be, right? That kid is physically gifted to go play at a Division I school, top tier school. You are pretty much, and we're talking football here, baseball's a little different, but let's talk football. You are giving that kid a free education. You are setting